I was really skeptical when it was first announced. I thought, why would I want less screen space to use with the Apple Pencil? And then when I tried it for the first time, I was like, oh wow, this thing is so light that you could actually sit there and hold it forever without getting any fatigue. I love it. It is one of the most likable pieces of technology to come across my desk as a tech reviewer in the last 10 years probably. Hey, it's Chris. Do mobility and flexibility trump pure power when it comes to shopping for a new iPad? I think for a lot of people, the answer is yes. I can see that in my own analytics on the channel here. A while back, I showed off some iPad mini tips like scanning your palm into the fingerprint reader, and that video is just going nuts. People love the iPad mini. I should say they still love the iPad mini because it came out in September of 2021. So it's been around for a little while now. It currently starts at $499 for the base. It's got an A15 chip, USB-C, some interesting colors, but looking at the tech specs alone is not gonna help you figure out why people love the iPad mini so much. People are out there trying to turn this into their desk setup. For some reason, YouTubers keep trying to make videos about using this as a phone replacement, which I don't get and I don't recommend. But I do get why people love using the Apple Pencil with the Pencil Planner and Calendar app and similar apps. But we are gonna fully break down what it is from a bunch of different angles that keeps people buying and loving the iPad mini. I'm gonna help you figure out by the end of the video if you should get the 6 now or if you should wait a little bit for the 7 that's just on the horizon. But people have all kinds of questions. People are wondering, can iPad mini 6 serve as a laptop replacement? And actually, depending on what you do, I would say the answer is oftentimes, surprisingly, it can, but not when it comes to anything that has to do with a keyboard. If you do a lot of typing, it's not fun to carry around a big external keyboard that's bigger than your mini, or it'd have to use a cramped, smaller keyboard. People are wondering, how does the iPad mini compare to a dedicated e-reader, something like a Kindle? And the answer is, in terms of the form factor, it's very favorable. It feels good to hold, nice to read on, but it does so much, it can be distracting. Internet, games, etc. Whereas something like Kindle that's dedicated to books and reading, it's a lot more streamlined. A big question that people have is, what about that jelly scrolling effect? If you scroll up and down quickly, you might notice some screen tearing. Not everybody sees it. I can notice it. If that kind of thing would bug you, you want to steer clear. A big question that people have is, how does it compare to the bigger iPads in terms of form factor? And one way I like to describe it is that it just feels like a digital notepad. Nice and small, easy to manipulate, fun to use. It feels minimal in a way that the bigger iPads just don't. And we'll talk more about that as the video goes on. And then likewise, on the smaller side of things, people are like, how does it compare to an iPhone? Well, the big thing there is Apple Pencil. One thing I can't stop thinking about, I've been thinking about it ever since this came out, is will we ever see a Mini Pro sometime in the future with a better screen, better specs and internals? It's weird to think about because I don't feel like Apple thinks of the Mini in that particular way, but I feel like people who are out there in iPad buying land would actually like and consider, some of them, something at this size point, this touch point, with more pro specs. But one thing I'll definitely say is don't let the size fool you. The iPad mini can do a lot. It's not just for consuming. You can actually be very productive there. And if you want to be very productive no matter what device you're using, you should definitely check out the Learning to Be Productive course. That's my productivity course, which will help you get more done in less time with less burnout in the Apple ecosystem. People are loving it. I'll link it up down below. All right, so let's actually start to dig into it. Why is the iPad mini 6 so popular? I should say still so popular. I should say still so popular at that price point. It starts at $499 for the base. It's not the cheapest iPad in the lineup, even though it's the smallest. So you kind of have this conundrum. It's got no Face ID. It's got battery life that could be improved. That's one thing a lot of people complain about. I wish it had better battery life. It also has limited storage, that aforementioned jelly scrolling effect. And also some websites load kind of weird on there because oftentimes websites just don't understand this is an iPad and it loads like a giant iPhone version of a website and that drives you nuts. But the big mistake that a lot of buyers would make out there is assuming that the mini is somehow lesser than other iPads just because it's smaller. But as it turns out, it is the actual smaller size where all of the benefits come from. I hate to say it because it's overused, but in this instance, bigger is actually not always better. For iPad mini buyers, the size and the portability really are the things that trump everything else. This thing is so light that you could actually sit there and hold it forever without getting any fatigue, without getting tired of it, without having to take a break. And despite its name, that's actually not something that you're gonna be saying about the iPad Air. And also just because of the compact nature of the thing, it's amazing how easily it can stash just about anywhere. plenty of people are able to actually fit it in their pockets. Another huge factor here is just the simplicity. And what I mean by that is this is Apple's most straightforward tablet, I feel. You know that Apple doesn't sell a keyboard to go with this and other types of accessories. It just is a really great tablet. And that makes it very easy as a consumer. Your expectations are set as soon as you hit purchase. So because of that size, it's been super popular for students because they like to carry this around campus. It doesn't add a lot of bulk. And for that very same reason, business people like to take it with them to things like meetings. It does a lot of the things that you need an iPad to do within a meeting, but it doesn't weigh as much as an iPad Pro with a keyboard. The Magic Keyboard is very heavy, and when you combine it with like a 12.9-inch iPad Pro, even the 11-inch, that's not a feather that you're carrying around in your backpack or bag. You know, I mentioned earlier that this feels like a notepad, but digital, and I think a lot of people like to take advantage of doing things like digital bullet journaling with this. It's the perfect form factor for that. That's also something that I covered extensively in the productivity course. And the thought that I want to pin onto that is that it's surprisingly good for Apple Pencil use. I was really skeptical when it was first announced. I thought, why would I want less screen space to use with the Apple Pencil? And then when I tried it for the first time, I was like, oh wow, I'm not sure that I do want that bigger extra screen space. I'm not an artist. I do a lot of writing. I like to make sketches and just use freeform and stuff like that, use Apple Notes. And this is a really addictive format for that. It just flows, that digital ink. I found it to be not limiting at all, actually, using the Apple Pencil. And it's great for things like editing photos. That's really cool here. You know, all the wallpapers that I did for the new wallpaper store, I would have no problem doing all that processing and editing on the iPad mini. In fact, it would have been better than doing it at the desk. Just like camp out on the couch or in a nice comfy chair, use the Apple Pencil. It's like a dream setup. So size, portability, simplicity. Let's also talk about the versatility. Because of all those things, this thing is so versatile. People love it for reading. They love it for gaming. They love it for surfing. They love it for just knocking out an email here or there, for note taking, kind of all that usual stuff where you'd be like, oh yeah, that's what you would do on the iPad mini. But a lot of people are using it for unusual things too. They're mounting it on the dash in their car. They're using it as a teleprompter. They're using it for sheet music, you know, when they're playing the piano or flute or something. There's a lot of just unconventional ways that people in different niches are finding to put this use that they wouldn't want to use a bigger iPad for. So those are the reasons why I think people have fallen in love with the iPad mini, why it's so popular, continues to be so popular, even though it isn't brand new and some new models might be right around the corner. But that isn't to say that people aren't looking for some improvements. In the next version, I know a lot of people would like a higher refresh rate, obviously get rid of the jelly scrolling. They'd like more storage options for the base. They would also like to see better battery life, something that lasts a little bit longer, especially for those of you that do a lot of consuming. A lot of rumors floating around for the iPad mini 7. Let's briefly discuss what might be coming down the pipeline to help you figure out, should you buy the 6 now or do you actually want to wait? The 7 is rumored to be getting a new chip, that's obvious, probably the A16 just to keep things humming along. The iPad mini is never going to have the top of the line chip. That's just not what happens with the mini. Maybe a mini LED display, that's been rumored, with better contrast, more vibrant colors, brighter hopefully. 500 nits is very doable, usable, but brighter is better. A lot of people are unhappy with the storage options right now. The base storage is rumored to increase to 128 gigs up from 64. Very possible that we'll see some slight design language updates with the industrial design, probably stuff like thinner bezels. As far as the date and price go for the Mini 7, we're probably looking at late 2023 to early 2024. So depending on your outlook, that could be kind of right around the corner. And I'm guessing that Apple's probably gonna keep the pricing similar to what the 6 was. That's usually what they do. Hey, look at all the stuff we added and we didn't really raise the price. You know, you've seen Apple announce stuff like that before. I would say wait for the 7 if you definitely know you want a more powerful mini with better performance. I would also wait for the 7 if you want an iPad mini with better 5G connectivity. Finally, I'd also say wait for that 7 if you want a better display. And that's probably the key thing. A lot of people are waiting for a better display. They're happy with just about everything else, but it's just that display that they want to see improved. If you need an iPad now and you can't wait, then you should hit buy. If you're satisfied with the current mini's performance and features, hit buy. Or if you're concerned that the new model might be more expensive or too expensive, then this is a good time to buy. The mini's just so likable, and it's one of those ones where it's hard to tell when you're just looking on a screen and seeing, you know, side-by-side comparisons, even the size comparisons on the screen. You gotta go in and see it for yourself. Hit Best Buy, hit an Apple store if you've got one around, and actually hold it. You know, try to use it with the Apple Pencil and think to yourself, do I really need a keyboard? Because I think for somebody like me, that's where the whole experience hinges. That's enough rambling. I hope you liked this video. Hopefully it was helpful. Check out the course, check out the wallpapers, and beyond anything else, I hope you check out the newsletter. It's free. It really simplifies your life if you're an Apple enthusiast or user. Plus, you'll find some free wallpapers in there from the wallpaper packs. Thanks for hanging out today. I'll catch you in the next one. Later.